I need to tell this story exactly the way it happened, because even now, it still feels unreal. My girlfriend and I had recently moved into our new house. It was the home we had always dreamed about. It wasn't huge or luxurious, but it was perfect for us. We had worked hard to afford it, and moving in together felt like the start of a new chapter. We even brought our rescue cat Bella with us, and everything seemed peaceful and exciting in the beginning. However, there was one strange detail about the neighborhood. The house to the right of ours looked abandoned. Apparently, the owner had started renovating it, but never finished the work. The fence between our back garden and theirs had been removed during the renovation, leaving the 2 yards open and connected. At first, it didn't seem like a big problem. Behind that abandoned house, there was another property where several young men lived. Sometimes, we would see them cutting through the abandoned garden to reach the street. We assumed they probably had permission from the owner, or were just using it as a shortcut. Our first strange experience happened on our very first night there. My girlfriend and I were sitting in the garden, enjoying the quiet night and looking up at the stars. Out of curiosity, we glanced toward the houses behind us. That was when we noticed something disturbing. A man was standing in a dark room, staring directly at us through a window. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't pretending to look somewhere else. He was simply standing there with a completely blank expression on his face. The room behind him was dark, making it even more unsettling. At first, we assumed he was just curious about his new neighbors, but he kept staring. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. After almost 30 minutes of that silent stare, we decided to go inside. Something about it didn't feel right. The next few days seemed normal again. I went to work while my fiancée stayed home unpacking boxes. One evening, we decided to relax in the garden again like we had before. The night was calm and quiet, until we suddenly heard something move near the wooden boards that separated our yard from the abandoned house. 3 men appeared. They just stood there, looking at us. I immediately asked if everything was okay, mostly because the silence felt too uncomfortable. One of them, the youngest-looking one, was carrying a large bag. He offered us some washing-up tablets that he claimed were extra. The situation was so awkward that I laughed nervously and politely refused. He smiled, said, "Okay," and the 3 of them left. But what bothered us was the way they entered our garden, like it belonged to them. After that night, things started getting worse. Those men began walking through our garden more often. They would lift the broken fence and casually pass through like it was normal. Sometimes they would stand around watching us before leaving. My girlfriend and I are both only 20 years old, so naturally we started wondering if they were trying to intimidate us because we were 2 young women living alone. One afternoon, something even stranger happened. 2 police officers suddenly appeared in the abandoned garden. They lifted the broken fence, looked around the property for a few minutes, and then left without saying anything to us. A few days later, the police came to our door. They explained that the house behind us had been vacated because the men living there had been removed for antisocial behavior. Apparently, they had caused problems for multiple neighbors. We felt relieved, but unfortunately, that relief didn't last long. One day, while I was taking a bath, I heard a loud bang outside. I quickly got dressed and ran to find my girlfriend. I found her standing at the spare bedroom window recording something on her phone. She told me a man we had never seen before had pointed at our bedroom window. The moment he noticed she was watching him, he sprinted straight toward our house. He tried our door handle. Then he ran into the abandoned garden, lifted the broken fence, and started banging on the windows of the empty house. We immediately called the police. They watched the video, took our statement, and then left. But the harassment didn't stop. A few nights later, at exactly 2:16 a.m., we heard whistling outside, the kind of whistle men sometimes use to harass women. Then we heard tapping on our window. When we checked the cameras, there was no recording. Whoever it was had somehow avoided being captured. The next morning, things became even more disturbing. Our Ring doorbell had been removed from the wall and placed on the ground. The SD card was missing. Someone had clearly taken it. The police warned us that removing cameras could be a sign that someone was planning something worse. Hearing that terrified us even more. For weeks, the harassment continued. Whistling, banging, strange noises in the night. Then one evening, we checked our camera's live feed while lying in bed. What we saw froze us in fear. A man was standing outside wearing a black mask and a hood. His arms were stretched out wide like he was imitating Jesus on the cross. He stared up at our bedroom window with his head tilted. Then he spoke something we couldn't hear. After that, he walked across the street and stood there staring at our house for almost 30 minutes. The police said staring at someone's house wasn't illegal. A few nights later, we got another camera alert at 2:52 a.m. Two masked men were outside shining flashlights into our windows. One of them was holding what looked like a crowbar. We called the police again, but they still did very little. Even now, the man sometimes stands across the street pointing at our house or staring up at our window. We have cameras everywhere now. We record everything. But we still feel completely powerless. And honestly, we're terrified about what might happen next. A few months later, I heard another story that was just as disturbing. A woman had ended a 2-year relationship with her ex-boyfriend, named Caleb. He had never been physically violent, but he was extremely controlling and manipulative. After the breakup, she changed her phone number, moved apartments, and removed all of her social media accounts. She believed she had escaped him. Then something strange began happening. Random strangers started repeating phrases that Caleb used to say to her. A barista greeted her with Caleb's nickname for her. A rideshare driver repeated a question Caleb once asked her. A stranger in a grocery store whispered a sentence only Caleb had ever said. It happened again and again with different people. Each time they spoke, they used Caleb's exact words. She eventually contacted Caleb's sister, only to learn that Caleb had been in rehab for weeks with no phone. But the strange encounters continued. One night she returned home and found her doormat flipped over. Written on the underside were the words, "You can change your face too if you want, but I'll still recognize you." The message made her physically sick. She eventually discovered that Caleb had once talked about an online forum where people shared psychological manipulation techniques. Her theory was horrifying. Someone had paid people to approach her in public and repeat Caleb's phrases so that she would never truly escape him. She moved again, changed her appearance, disappeared from social media. But weeks later, a stranger walked past her on the street and quietly said, "Still hiding behind books, sunshine." And the final story came from a family trip. 18 relatives rented a large Airbnb house near one of Michigan's Great Lakes. Because the house was so crowded, 4 cousins had to sleep in a separate garage building behind the main house. The garage was old, dirty, and poorly maintained. Around 3 a.m., loud crashes suddenly shook the garage door, like someone was slamming their body against it. The noise happened 3 times. Eventually, their uncle went outside to investigate. Behind the garage, he saw a man standing completely still. The man didn't run. He didn't react. He simply stared. And then he disappeared into the darkness without making a single sound. Later, the family found 2 strange jester playing cards inside the buildings. Some believed it was a neighbor trying to scare them. Others believed it was something far more sinister. No one ever discovered the truth, and the Airbnb host never responded when they asked about the camera footage. Even now, all 3 stories remain unsolved, and the people who experienced them still wonder the same thing every night. Who was really watching them, and why?